Today I wanted to share a few ways to check out a neighborhood for a home that you're considering buying that are from 3 different websites that are all available to the public. Now, it's important to also check it out through MLS, and I made another separate video for that, but right now I'm just focusing on the sites where you can do it for public. And those sites are Zillow, Google Maps, and Trulia. With Trulia, you're checking out the crime. With Zillow, you're checking out the neighborhood values. You're just getting ballpark values, not exact. And then with Google Maps, you're getting a more visual idea of what the neighborhood around you looks like. I'll include some links there in the end about different ways to do it that are sometimes more accurate or otherwise can give you more information. But these are just real easy ways to get ballpark ideas without having to work too hard. Let's say I'm a new buyer, new to the area, don't know anything about neighborhoods or anything like that, so I'm going to check it out, just make sure it's a good neighborhood, looks like a great looking house. So I'm in Trulia first and looking at crime. So you've got this little tab right down there, or you can just keep scrolling down and there's this right here where it talks about crime. And what you want is green. You see this, you've got safer versus less safe. You do not want to be, you really want to be in the green. You don't even want to be in the yellow. If you're in Hampton Roads, it's pretty easy to be in the green. There's lots of areas that are green. Now, with higher population density, it is a little bit more difficult to be in the green. So you do give a little bit with higher population densities. But you still want to generally be as close to the green as possible. And also you see the various things that have occurred, the various crimes that have occurred: simple assault, deceased person, sex assault, rape, drug, narcotics, lots of different things. And it'll actually even show you where some of these sorts of things happened. And I'm not seeing any of that around this neighborhood. I'm seeing it in other neighborhoods, but not in this neighborhood. So that's a very good sign. That's crime. And one thing I did want to share though while we're in that, see this area here, it's the highest of all of the, you've got these different pockets here and there. This is probably the biggest pocket of the different colors, just more so than any other area around here. And wanted to go, so if you had simply checked to see what crime rating that particular house had, like for instance, you've got this green that's right in the middle of all this crime, all these crime areas. And so it is important not to just look at the crime of that individual property, but the surrounding neighborhoods as well. So this right here, for instance, is supposedly the safest, and yet you've got this pretty dangerous, according to Trulia at least, area right next door. So you do want to watch out for that. You want to look at not just the area you're in, but the surrounding areas too, because it can be misleading. So next we're going to go to Zillow. And with Zillow, one of the things I like about it is the estimates of the surrounding neighborhood. Now, this mortgage thing, don't really pay too much attention to that, because it's 20% down, which most people aren't doing these days in this area at least. And it's also does not include taxes and insurance, so that is going to be less than it actually is. But on the other hand, this is still a great site for finding some ballpark estimates of the surrounding neighborhood values. And generally you want values that are pretty close to the list price of the property that you're going to buy or that you're considering buying. If you have surrounding neighborhood values that are all pretty close, and if Zillow is at least semi-accurate in terms of ballpark, then that's very good for resale. You don't want to be on the high end of that. Um, Generally, for resale, it's can work out sometimes, but generally you want to be more close to the middle, and being on the bottom, like if the house that you're looking at was uh, very low in price by comparison to the surrounding neighborhood, that would actually be a good thing in terms of resale. So right now we're looking at this property, and we're seeing that lots of the surrounding properties are also in different prices that are all around 495. Mostly you're talking about this being higher than the rest of the neighborhood, but it's not really by much. And you still have this one that's 502 which is more. You generally don't want to be at the top, and this one being 495, it's just not at the very top. But it's close enough where it shouldn't really be a problem. It's right within the range that you want to be. On the other hand, I could show you other properties I won't even get into where they're way overpriced, like double, triple the value of the surrounding neighborhood, and you really don't want to be in that situation. That's terrible for resale. So that's just brief area values. Another thing I want to go into is Google Maps. Sometimes on Zillow you'll have like new construction zones where it's not all up to date, and sometimes Google Maps, even if it doesn't have a visual image, it will be more up to date in terms of where the new construction is, where different addresses are, etc. And it's also great for directions. I use it for that as well. But wanted to go through a few things with Google Maps. One was just looking at it from the street view, which is pretty nice that you've got options like this. So one thing that's great about looking at it from the street view, like in some neighborhoods it's difficult to tell just by looking from above if there are commercial establishments that are in the area. In this case it's not a problem at all. You've got a bunch of residential in a well-established community, but generally you don't want to be by too much commercial, so that is one thing to look out for. And also another thing to look out for in street view is traffic. Generally if you see a bunch of cars in this, then there's going to be a decent amount of traffic on a regular basis. But then again, you don't know when the person that was filming this actually was doing it, if there was rush hour or not. We're going to go back to this above search. And one thing that's great about this is giving you an idea for the neighborhood in a real easy way. You want to generally do this before the street view, even though we did that in reverse in this case. But so this will just give you a general ballpark idea. Sometimes you can see just a bunch of trash in the neighbor's yard, which might still be there or might not. But having an idea that it could be there is better than not knowing at all. And so it just gives you a little bit of an idea of what's going on in the neighborhood. Can show you sometimes construction and things like that, things to watch out for. And in this case, it's very uniform neighborhood in terms of it all being, even though it's not a bunch of cookie cutter houses, it's a bunch of substantially sized, well-made, high-value homes for this area, all with relatively good-sized yards. And one other thing I wanted to show you is this right here. So So I click that first, and then you do the control plus mouse drag. So right now I'm going to hit control, and I'm able to do that. And this is particularly helpful in a situation where you're trying to figure out what kind of a view you would get of water front or something like that from certain angles, like from second story, if you were going to build a second story on a house. But it's really, really nice what you can do with Google Maps here. It's really quite a bit. And that is all that I'm going to show for now. Hope that was helpful.